We were chatting inside about different words that you use, and one of the words was Gansey.
Yeah, so that's a word that one of my friend's parents uses. He'd been a fisherman, and a Gansey is what he would call his sweater, a fisherman's sweater. And oftentimes it would be made out of sheep's wool because it would be warm and waterproof. And that's what he would call it, was a Gansey.
And you used the word sleevine here, or a different...
Yeah, I would use the word sleevine to describe someone who may be a little bit sly or not the most trustworthy. You would say, there's some sleevine.
And you were saying as well that you'd use the word biz.
To say that I've been somewhere or I go there a lot, you would say, oh, I bees there. I bees in St. John's during the week, or I bees down to, Uncle Joe's or whatever. But I would say that I bees somewhere, yeah.
And there was other words as well. You said the word for when you went to an old house. There was a lovely word you used for it.
Oh yeah, so you would say there was a if something something smelled a bit old, or if a house had been burnt up, say all the winter, you would say it's Fousty.
Fousty.
It's like a Fousty smell, and it doesn't necessarily mean a bad smell. It just might mean almost like stuffy, or it could even mean something maybe mouldy. You would say it's Fousty.
Fousty. And you were saying as well you use a T at the end of words, certain words.
Yeah, I found it funny, and I always tell the story that when I swear I was in university before I knew that the cliff wasn't the clift. So around here, growing up, you would say clift. Another word that we add a T to a lot is cousin. So you would say my cousin, my cousin Mary or something. Legion is another word that we would add T's to. And there's other words as well that I can't really think of off the top of my head, but I'll think about it more throughout the week.
Yeah, and the word chimney, would you use Chimley or Chimney?
Chimley.
Chimley.
So you would add a nail.
Yeah.
You would add a nail to Chimley for sure.
Chimley, yeah. And there was other words as well. You were saying there was you were going to heat something up in the microwave or something.
Yeah, and I get made fun of this a little bit because I work in a bigger centre in St. John's, and I got made fun of one day because I was going to warm up my lunch at lunchtime, and I said I'm going to go hatten up my lunch, and people kind of looked at me like I had 10 heads, and said, what are you going to do with your lunch? I said, I'm going to hatten it, as in I'm going to warm it up, I'm going to heat it up, I'm going to make it hot again. And that's how I said I was going to do it. I was going to hatten it up, and I still say hatten.
Your family now would have used that word as well, would they?
Yeah, I guess I would have gotten it from somewhere. So growing up, you hattened up your lunch.
Brilliant.
After you got back from your walk on the cliff with your cousin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And would your cousin be a Quare hand?
Yeah, they could be a Quare hand. Yeah, if they were, jovial and foolish, or saying something a bit silly, you'd say, "You're a Quare hand."
Quare hand.
Yeah.
And I'll end with this one. And say if someone was real handy, they'd put an arse in a.
They'd put an arse in a cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'd say that?
Yeah, I definitely would. I have described people that I know are quite handy, like handymans and stuff, and can do anything, and I'd say they'd put an arse in a cat. Yeah, lots of sayings.